and welcome to another edition of the Mayor Dan Paletko Show. I'm very pleased to have as my guest Lieutenant James Grady, who is the District 2 South Emergency Manager Coordinator. So, Lieutenant, thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for having me, Mayor.
And one of the reasons we wanted to chat with you today is we had last August 11th a really atrocious rainstorm that came in through Dearborn Heights and Dearborn and surrounding communities, and we had a lot of devastation. And if it wasn't for the assistance that we received from the Wayne County Emergency Manager and from the state police, I don't know that we would have ever got through, and also the FEMA people, right. I don't know that we would have been able to get through this. So that had to be quite an event for you to administer.
Yes, it was, and my first disaster,
Okay.
shall we say. But nevertheless, it is a partnership between the federal, the state, and the local emergency manager coordinators, and we got the job done.
How much do you know about how much money? I was told that over $1 million was distributed through FEMA, and there was also the Small Business Administration also gave some funds, which I'm not sure, but there was at least over $1 million given to Dearborn Heights residents.
That's correct, sir. As a matter of fact, I was just taking a sneak peek this morning in the city of Dearborn Heights. Actually received almost $2 million in individual assistance funding from FEMA in reference to the severe floods that we had here back on the 11th of August.
I will tell you that I can remember some of the good times as being a mayor, and then there's some times that you wish never happened. I had an officer in the city that was died in the line of duty, and I always feel that was the worst day I ever had as a mayor. But this one ranked pretty high in regards to disaster, the devastation to people's homes, all their personal possessions. It was a very devastating event, and still something that I know that to the day that I die, I will always remember some of those passionate comments and those going in people's homes and seeing the destruction was just unbelievable. I
agree with you. When you really didn't know until you went out, a couple of days after the severe flooding had taken place. I think after a week or so, roughly a week, 5 to 7 days, you could actually see the devastation because of the amount of debris,
yes.
The personal property, the mementos,
yes.
Many other things that had to be thrown out of people's basement because of the flood, because of the water. And that had to be done because it could, of course, cause some health effects later on down the line with black mold and things such as that. So, but again, I do agree with you. You really wouldn't know until you saw after a couple days of the debris that was placed down on the front of people's lawns.
The other thing, it was interesting to me because there were many groups. We saw organizations come in and not charging people, but basically helping individuals who were maybe elderly, handicapped, and helping them clean their homes. And that is an awesome task. I mean, after even, I would say, maybe 48, 72 hours, those homes, some of them, the stench from that water was just unbelievable. And you'd see volunteers going in and cleaning up some people's homes. And I was very impressed. It made me feel that humanity still comes out and helps people, because some of these groups were not local. And you'd talk to them and they would spend their mornings in Warren, Michigan and telling us, and then they would be in the afternoons in Dearborn Heights helping people. And we can't thank those people enough for coming to the assistance of our residents. But tell me a little bit of what you do as a state coordinator. Obviously, you were very instrumental in helping us get the funds. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, basically, as a district coordinator, I am the state's liaison here in the 2 South area. And 2 South does consist of Wayne, Monroe, and Washtenaw counties.
Okay.
Of course, we know Wayne County was severely affected from the disaster. So I am the liaison with the emergency manager coordinators, like you have here, and Mr. Robert Ancrop. Again, those emergency manager coordinators here at the local level did a great job providing that information to the state's Emergency Operations Center so that that information could be collected and forwarded to the governor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the inter-coordination, and I remember Bob giving me a call, I think it was like on a Friday, and we had to assemble all this information and in a specific way, and he did a yeoman's job in getting that completed, and we had a lot of assistance in the city, and we were able to, so when the FEMA people came in on their visit, we knew specifically, and I remember going out there with them, but we knew where the worst of the worst were, and we were able to take the FEMA people from Chicago right through, and there were representatives of the state police that accompanied us, and everyone marking what they were observing, seeing the damage that was done, and that was to get us qualified initially. And then the assistance of getting funds for individuals, helping us hold more than one forum for residents was extremely important. And now we're coming back because we have some ideas on the mitigation grants. So we met with one of the individuals who is in home acquisitions. I think he's located out of Ingham County and Lansing, but we continue to get great service and assistance in filling out those grants, and we are hoping we're going to be able to get some of that $20 million and be able to use it so people who go through this consistently won't have to go through it again.
Right, and I'll tell you, Mayor, that every little bit does help. You're right. That's what the Emergency Management Homeland Security from the state police, that's what we do. Mm-hmm. We are there to provide resources and assistance to the locals. And through the emergency manager coordinators, they normally contact me if they have additional questions or concerns. If I don't know the answer, I'll reach back to staff at the division, and we have subject matter experts there that are, very strong, that have a wealth of knowledge that can provide me with information that I can forward back to the emergency manager coordinators. So we always work together. Mm-hmm. I'm that conduit to the state as the state liaison, and for these individual cities like Dearborn Heights, that's what your emergency manager coordinator is for. Mm-hmm. They do a wonderful job, and again, they're the conduit to everything. I'm hoping that everybody supports their emergency manager coordinator. You don't want to wait until you have a disaster like this to do that or to find out exactly what they do. That's what they're there for.
Yeah. In most communities, we did some meetings with other communities that had gone through the flooding, and most of them don't have emergency coordinators.
No, they don't.
And we have a plan that's unfiled. We've attempted to be one of the few management emergency ready. And while we do all the preparation, have done a lot of work, we've gone through a lot of training in regards to flooding, in regards to if a plane, because we are in the flight path of Metro Airport,
right,
and cognizant hopefully that'll never happen, but if there was to be a plane crash and other items that we've done the training. But when you get in the actual event, no matter how much training you do, there is a lot of things that you learn and you didn't anticipate. There's things we were ready for, but there were things we were not ready for, so we're going to get better. Now you're a local product. You grew up in the city of Inkster?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yeah.
And you went to high school?
At Wayne Memorial High School.
Wayne Memorial. Were you in sports or?
Yes, I was. Basketball, track.
Okay, well, there's an age difference. So otherwise, maybe based on your size, played guard or?
Guard, little forward, a little bit of everything.
Okay.
I just like playing the game.
Actually, I might have played against you as another point guard from Cressida. So I did run into an individual recently who we both thought we knew each other, but we couldn't tell from where. And then I found out that he had grown up in Southgate, and then he managed to tell me, he goes, I remember playing Crestwood. He says, I scored 23 points against you, so he probably did it against me. And I was a little bit embarrassed about that. But so you know the area very well, then.
Yes, I do. I have a very good understanding of this area. This is home to me. I still reside in the Wayne County area, so to me, it's more than just a job. Mm-hmm. I take it personal too, because this type of disaster, these type of events can affect my family and myself as well. So You know, that's why it's so important for your local emergency manager coordinators, for the State Police Emergency Management Homeland Security Division, to constantly try to get information to the citizens on how they need to prepare. You know, they need to develop emergency plan kits. They need to have an emergency plan for their home, who they're going to contact, where they may go in the event of a disaster or serious emergency related matter. I think that's all very important, but we have to push that information out. We were having an earlier discussion about it being cold today. Right now, yeah. Winter ready awareness is very important right now, to provide citizens with information like you need to make sure you have a good battery in your car. You need to make sure that you have blankets in your vehicle, you know, in some cases water, you know, flares, you know, things of that nature, so that if something does happen, you're able to hold on and survive long enough so that you can receive some help. Being prepared is huge. Earlier in the year, just actually before the floods, in another part of our area just south of here, Monroe County had a water ban. Again, as a resident, if you have a kit at home, a disaster kit, now you have additional water supplies there. So if you can't drink the water, in which they couldn't in Monroe County, in the southern half there, they also couldn't bathe in it. They couldn't even boil it to use it to drink or anything like that. So it's just so important to try to, you know, plan and prepare ahead as much as possible. Also, I'd like to throw in STEP. STEP is the Student Tools and Emergency Planning program that the state police currently has, and we're spearheading with the schools, districts throughout the state of Michigan, that will give the students, you know, our younger folks, information on how they are to prepare. So when they become adults, they'll be a little bit more advanced to making sure that they have a kit and that they have plans at home. That type of information is very crucial, especially in this day and age. The weather is constantly changing. We never know what's going to happen. So to have something there written, something that you can share with your family members, that you actually have kits and things like that prepared, is very crucial and very critical at times.
Yeah,
like
you brought up a very good point, because when Toledo, people got their water supply from Toledo, and southern Michigan portion of Monroe County
Right.
does. And I remember getting a call from my friend down in Toledo, and my initial reaction when she said, they're telling us not to drink any of the water, don't bathe in it, don't use it. And my immediate thought was, well, you know, why don't you boil it? And she goes, no, that's the worst thing you can do. They're telling us that that will just make this thing more toxic. But she sent me, I asked her, I said, what do you need? And she says, I need water. And I remember going to a local store, and there were already people that were migrating from as far away as Toledo, coming in and buying cases of water. And one gentleman in the one store, I don't want to give its name, but sat there and said, you know, I don't know what's going on. I had a whole pallet of water and it's all gone. So I had to go a little far north of Dearborn Heights in order to get bottled water for her.
Right.
But those are the kinds of things, and we try consistently, because your first line of defense is basically going to be what your preparation is as a family. I don't have enough first providers. We have a CERT program that Bob Ancraft coordinates, even with an additional 125 volunteers. Mm-hmm. I don't have the manpower to go into 2,000 or 3,000 homes if they need it, but water's essential. Common type first aid, if anybody has medical difficulties. And I know that I was riding with my fire department, and the water was so high that it took out one of our fire trucks. I lost almost 4 police cars because of the water. Now we're adapting. As a city, we just bought 6 Explorers, and the idea is for those kind of events, they'll be able to maneuver through the high water. That the old Crown Vics, they were just, the engines were completely covered in the water as they were going through. And those kind of things. That was the other thing I learned, because just trying to maneuver around the city, once you got near the Ecorse Creek, it became very difficult. And I've been through a lot of the training, that I know that you take a car in a couple feet of water and it's very easy that it can become a floating object, and you really don't have control, plus all the damage you do to the vehicle. And so it became very difficult. And even with the assistance of the police department and the fire department, to get from City Hall to my South End fire station over on Telegraph became quite a journey. It was very difficult. Made it there, and then we were rescuing some people and responding to calls with boats. And one of my fire department, there's a search team out of Metro Airport. They came out located at our South End fire station. So they were prepared to go out in this water. But those were things we never anticipated, that we would be so engulfed in water we would not be able to get even a fire truck and rescue. They would take the boat, float through the water to a person's house, and then and these were captured, a couple of local news agency, in order to put them on the flotation device and then bring them out to a place that we could take them to in an ambulance. And then the other thing we didn't anticipate, Oakwood Hospital was so devastated that their emergency room was under, 3-4 feet of water. So that emergency hospital, we had to now react differently in transport. So there were a lot of things that we learned, and we'll be working with you to, hopefully we won't have an event like that, but we have to anticipate we will, as to how to handle that and to educate our residents. Although I thought most did a very good job as we went through this disaster.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're right. Every disaster is different also. You could have another event like this happen 5-10 years from now, but some things may be different. No disaster is the same. But having those plans, as you had indicated earlier, that the emergency manager coordinators are responsible for making sure that things are updated, that those plans are actually tested through exercises. It's very crucial that you do that, because again, your plan is your base. That's how you can figure out what you need to do. And you never know, Mayor, yourself, Mr. Ancrop, you could all be out of town during an incident, and someone needs to be able to take that plan off the shelf and actually utilize it, and without any major issues. So that's a part of the emergency management. A lot of people really don't understand it. So I know that the State Police Emergency Management Homeland Security Division, many of our local emergency manager coordinators are trying to push the information out to citizens so that they're aware of exactly what we do. And you're also right about, once again, having something at home prepared, because all citizens should have something stockpiled for at least 72 hours.
And the other thing, we can't, for other types of things, I know that I ran into a couple individuals who were determined to get home because of the fact that it might have been a mom or a dad who wanted to make it back to their home. The streets are so badly flooded, and you need to have a family plan. Even though we have cell phones, and that's better, the communication, but be prepared if there's a fire in the house, an evacuation plan, where you're all going to meet, so you know that everybody's okay. And when the fire department comes in, even for pets are like loved ones, so make provisions. But and the other thing is common sense thing, that make sure your batteries are operating and your smoke detectors. You might want a carbon monoxide somewhere in the house. Any place that people sleep, it's essential there be a smoke detector that's working. And that all these things, where the medications, if people, and I don't think it's bad. I know a couple times we practiced as a family when my kids were younger. They were always concerned about the dog and making sure the dog was going to be saved, but where we would all meet, if we all evacuated the house, we had one section in the backyard that we're all going to meet here, and then we know everybody got out of the house and we're all okay. But so essential, and it's the kind of thing you can say, well, I'm going to do it next week, I'm going to do it tomorrow. No, you need to stop, take the time, and make sure. But water is essential. As humans, we can't exist very long as water, but also having some food available in some way, shape, or fashion really makes common. Fire extinguishers, although we always tell people don't try to put all the fires out. We have a fire department, they'll respond. But for small kitchen fires, not having to search and say, well, now where did I put that fire extinguisher? Does it work? And checking, and so that kind of a checklist. We also tell residents, be very concerned, aware of your safety, your surroundings. Every once in a while you read about carjackings and stuff,
Right,
and so
right.
people need to be aware, and it's just use your eyes, use your ears, park in a lighted area, more light around your house, common sense things, but
Right.
can keep you safe.
Oh yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. You do have to think and plan ahead as much as possible. You know, don't rule out leaving out or trying to purchase a generator. That's also good to have in your kit or in your plans, so that you can have some power in your home. You're right. Some redundancy set in your own home, because you're right. You may not be able to use a cell phone. What other form of communication will you have available to you? So trying to plan ahead and having a preparedness kit and a plan developed is once again very critical for your family. And a lot of the things that you hit were right on the top of the nail, because those are things that you need to have. You don't want it to be standing there like, okay, what do we do next?
Right.
In the middle of a disaster. We've had blackouts here in the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago. So again, having your plan together is very critical. And you know, here in the spring, you'd have to forgive me because I can't quite remember the month, but we have a National Preparedness Week that we start doling out information or trying to forward information by utilizing the media outlets and providing information to our local emergency manager coordinator, so they too can post that information on their websites. I think just getting the information out to the citizens is, you know, is critical and very important to do.
Lieutenant, we talked just briefly about what individuals should have in a home kit. Can you elaborate on that? What type of things should residents have to prepare themselves for emergencies?
As indicated, Mayor, you want to have enough in your kit to sustain you and your family for at least 72 hours in the event until you can get additional resources. But some of those items in that kit should include water. You have to have enough water. You want to have non-perishable items, food, clothing, blankets, flashlights, batteries for the flashlights. You want to have your plan in there, you know, something written down where you would need to go. Your children need to be educated to where that information is and how to retrieve it. And sometimes some additional funds, you know, you could have in there. I think for further information, because there's a very long list of items that you can put in there, the best thing to do would be to actually go to the state police website at www.michigan.gov//be prepared. Also, the city of Dearborn Heights has a website, and under the emergency management information there, I know Mr. Ancrop has a link also to the state police website as well. So a lot of your information will be there. We have an emergency preparedness planning guide for families in that website. So I think going and actually taking a look at that will give you the guidance that you need for you and your family, so that you have the right information and you have the correct resources that you would need. And you could simply put a lot of those resources in a tote. You know, a very large tote. You could have several totes there. Just store them somewhere again where you know you can find them, and they're easy to get to when you need to.
So if they get nothing else out of the show, at least if they are prepared and go through that checklist, and we're going to have that at the bottom of our program, so they can always watch the program a second time to get it, or go to the city's website, also has the information. But be prepared, and that's really the main message that we wanted to get to the public today. So very good. And once again, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Mayor Dan Paletko Show, and thank the residents for viewing my show. And once again, this is Lieutenant James Grady, who's District 2 South Emergency Management Coordinator local boy that's done great, and we were happy to have you as my guest. Thank you.
Thank you,
Lieutenant.
man. Thank you for having me.